Mike, have you seen Star Trek Lower Decks episode 3?
No.
Dang
Of
it.
course I did.
Okay. So,
And we're going for 40? We're sticking with we're 40?
yeah, do we want
Okay,
to get more
good.
details than
But
that?
no,
I think I'm
we're gonna
older
say
than
that.
you.
We're almost in our 40s. Let's say that.
Oh, that's nice of you. So, no, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm definitely a bit older.
So for those of you who haven't watched or listened to anything that we've done before on this, I was looking forward to Lower Decks with the full knowledge that possibly a cartoon was not for me. James was not looking forward to it. Kind of hit a middle ground where there's parts that we like, there's parts that we dislike. Fortunately, it sounds like you did like this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. If you watch our first episode or listen to our first episode, we almost have the exact same entry points and the exact same re-entry points. It's kind of bizarre. We are lucky that I think we were born in the best time for pop culture and movies. And unfortunately, we were born in the worst time in terms of our adult lives, being we're fighting to survive against fascism again. So give and take, like, hey, rah rah, Marvel movies. On the downside, I don't know if my industry is going to survive this coming season. So it's been fun. We both also have the distinction of not really liking the CBS All Access era of Star Trek stuff. I kind of like Discovery. I think Discovery suffers because of all the behind the scenes turmoil that went on it. And I tolerated Picard, but wish it was better. And the jury's still out on Lower Decks for me.
I guess same for me, but yeah, it's not. I don't have if Lower Decks has an episode that I love, like some of the Next Generation episodes, or so, not, even not of that level, let's say half of that level, I'd be shocked. They're like, oh my god, there's an episode that I really loved at this. So yeah, they released a trailer for Lower Decks, and I saw the trailer and I was like, that looks like monkey shit. And Mike saw the trailer and you were like, that looks promising. And you had
It had what I wanted. It had the Next Generation era. It had it's not serialized. So like every week is its own little standalone thing, like I think Star Trek thrives on.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was going to give it a chance one way or another because I'm too stupid to ever remember to cancel CBS All Access. So at least this gives me something to do once a week. In terms of this episode, I can see exactly why you wouldn't have liked it at all.
Oh, yeah.
And parts of me were like, this is not, I get where they're going with on the story, but you could only do a story like this with the manic stuff that happens in the middle in animation. And it did not ring true to me. It's weird. It was like it was a screenplay by a horrible person. This felt like a Star Trek The Next Generation era episode done by people that aren't used to doing Star Trek The Next Generation, sort of like it would be like Tarantino's script for Natural Born Killers being made by Oliver Stone. Yeah. I can see where they were going for with this episode, but the medium and the way that they told it just didn't work in the confines of what they were trying to tell. The planet-based stuff I liked. So we'll get into that then. So here's the story
First, what we're going to do
this lovely episode.
Mike will give you a rundown. So I guess we're going to do our spoilers alert. There you
Temporal
go.
Edict. So the episode starts like they've all started, with a nonsensical teaser that I kind of found funny enough. But the meat of the story is that it takes the Montgomery Scott rule of engineering that he talks to Geordi about in the episode Rallix, and says
that is
never tell.
Pause. That is hilarious that we both had that same thought when they
Really?
did that scene. I was like, well, Scotty explained this with more elegance.
Yeah.
Like where he was kind of like, oh, you can always do it, Sonny, but you got to tell him that you did a miracle, So that was nice.
So Scotty's whole thing in that one was he's being regarded as a miracle worker in his career as a brilliant engineer, and says the reason that he did is he always overestimated the time it would take. So if it was going to be a week-long job, he would say it would be 2 weeks, so that when he got it done under budget, they would say, it's a miracle. You're the
Yeah.
best engineer ever. So this attitude has gone through the entire ship. So everybody who doesn't work on the bridge has the attitude of having this buffer time. So if you get a job, you put in your buffer time so you can relax and hang out before you have to do your job. The captain finds out about this because the main character of the series, Ensign Brad Boimler, is such an such an overachiever that he mistakenly tells the captain that everyone is doing this. So the captain, who's already feeling a little insecure about her job and the fact that this ship is insignificant, decides, I'm going to punish everybody, and everybody has a time limit on all of their jobs now, and we're going to be as efficient as possible. And that leads to the crew burning out and basically being very high strung, screwing up a planetary mission. The away team gets kidnapped because they've brought the wrong idol down to this team. Meanwhile, the spacefaring part of this civilization hijacks the ship, the Cerritos, and starts taking that over because everybody is so concerned with their jobs that they can't fend off these very primitive aliens. They eventually find out. The captain eventually says, or is told by Boimler, the reason this is happening is because you're not delegating your jobs. You're wanting everything to be done. You're a good captain. You just have to let people do things at their own pace. So she's like, okay, you're right. Crew, do everything at your own pace. Does that. Crisis averted. On to the next thing. It just felt very wacky for wacky's sake. And I say this fully aware of episodes like Naked Time and Naked Now, where crazy things happen. Like those are two episodes where everybody gets horny on the ship and funny stuff happens. This one just felt weird, where I don't think you would be able to not do this in animation because everybody is so high strung with bags under their eyes and problems happening that it takes the idea of not relaxing to an extreme that you can only do in animation. And I worried that this was the worst case scenario of what could happen in a Star Trek show. And hopefully it's just confined to this episode, because there was some good stuff in this, but it felt too slapsticky on this. But when I say that it felt too slapsticky, the parts that I enjoyed the most were the fact that this very primitive alien civilization hijacks the Cerritos, starts spray painting their language all over the outer hull and on the inside, and is taking over the ship with spears. I thought that was funny, but it didn't. It is probably my least favorite episode of the series. 3 episodes in, and I'm hoping it gets better. Not thinking that it has no reason not to, but yeah, I can see your reasoning for disliking it was exemplified all throughout this episode.
Yeah. So, all right, that's the rundown of it. Now we're going to go into 2 different sections. First, we're going to talk about the bad stuff from our point of view in the episode, and then we'll talk about the good stuff from our point of view. Yeah, this is for me the worst episode yet, and that's like trying, because there's problems in the other 2 episodes, but this one is just like across the board bad. Him playing the violin and like their version of 10 Forward, their little bar where they all get together, Boimler, and it's not working out. Everybody hates it. And then the Submariner shows up, our other ensign, who's too cool for school, and plays a rock guitar because it was written by a 13-year-old who thinks somebody playing a guitar with rock and roll like a bass is cool, and shakes the whole ship. And then the button of the scene is they come in and they break Boingler's violin because they think he was the one causing the ruckus. So now we have yet again the cool character getting the low status or goof character hurt, beaten, or mistreated, which is like we're really watching some great villains, is what it feels like. I was like, these are marvelous villains we're watching. We're not watching Star Trek at all. We are certainly not watching anybody who should be in the fleet. And but we are watching what could be, you joked about it, I think, on our first podcast about how maybe this is how we got to Picard. And I'm starting to really believe there's a brilliant mind behind all of this, that we went from Next Generation, where together we can achieve anything, to being selfish, petty, shitty humans to each other. And yeah, and so this is very much starting to resemble Picard a lot.
Now, see, I have a different perspective of that opening. I feel like they were reserved in that they didn't have the security guard. I can't even, that's a bad sign for a show when you don't know the character names. I know the 4 leads. I don't know the bridge characters' names, except for the captain. But I'm glad that they were reserved enough so that when he broke Boimler's violin, that Boimler wasn't like, my grandfather's violin or something like that, that like made it sting. Like, and that's what I was worried they were going for. The thing that cautiously, you know how cautious I am in terms of like throwing trash out like this, because I don't want people to ever cite it and be like, this is why it's bad. I had disagreed with like the way that she came out and starts playing the guitar like that and the drums, because it is, like I've said in other episodes, it's universe breaking in that when you're now 100 years before this, the Beastie Boys' Sabotage was considered classical.
Yeah.
So her doing that wouldn't have been out of place. It wouldn't have been people reacting to music like that, because it's something that's considered this venerable form of music, and the reaction to how loud it was and the reaction to the way it was played just doesn't fit with the universe. And I'm seeing that that's happening a lot more, and I was worried. And I said in the first episode that I think that that's why I didn't think this show was going to be like this, because the writing staff is being so careful to make sure that it fits within the confines of the Next Generation. They are going for easy jokes that I have to just accept now are part of the show. She mentions Kirk in this episode, and it made me laugh, and it was like, okay, you know what? That's her character. She is smart enough to be able to call this, and those are the kind of jokes she's going for. But the weird guitar metal thing was just a little too like jokey for jokey's sake for me in this one. And it had nothing to do with the rest of the episode. That's what I don't like. None of the Star Treks I've ever had like a totally disconnected teaser like that, and it feels very much like newer comedy sitcoms doing that. The Office always did that, and I'm wondering if I can't think if Rick and Morty was ever like that, because most of those teasers connect back up. So it's a distinct choice to have a weird joke in the beginning that isn't Star Trek based. And I think that it should be a Star Trek based joke that isn't just a haha loud music disrupted the meeting. It should have been something where, imagine if, and I'm talking so much, I apologize. Imagine if that loud music pleased the Klingons instead of pissing them off. They were like, wow, you've honored us with that loud ruckus music. Like, that's such an easy turn to make it work and make it Star Trek. And I can definitely see where you were coming from.
And that happens, and then the crew gets the sad news. This spaceship and the captain were going to go help negotiate peace settlement, a big diplomacy sort of moment, a Captain Picard sort of episode of like working with him. And they get told, no, we're going to send somebody else who's more qualified. You guys have to go deliver presents to this planet. And it really is, when I heard that, I was kind of like, oh, that's cool, because I'm sure that happens all the time to people that you don't see in Star Trek. So I was kind of like, oh, cool. They were promised they were going to do one great thing, and now they don't get to do it. Now they got to go do something horrible. And then the rest of the episode, all that happens on this ship is them proving that they should not be allowed to do anything more than deliver. They couldn't even deliver the presents. They fucked that. They caused a war with a planet, with an entire planet, entire species of people went to war against our ship because they couldn't deliver a gift. So it was like, no, you should not be allowed to go on great adventures. You just proved that you can't even do that. And then the story kind of splits into to an A plot and a B plot. The A plot is on the ship. Boimler is efficient and gets everything done and hates that everybody's slacking off. So he accidentally tells the captain, and then he feels guilt about it. And so they give everybody these timers that they got to do. And this was part of the episode that I found a little interesting. Amazon warehouses got busted a bit ago, and they're still using it. It should take you 30 seconds to go get it. And like people were showing this, and this is like why they were trying to unionize and fight, was because it was telling you how many steps you need to take and how long it should take you to go get a toothbrush, put it in a box, and ship it out. And it was like it's a sort of micromanage and a forced control that I would never work under.
That bums me out that I totally did not see the cultural
Oh,
iconography of this episode.
so I was like, well, either by accident or a writer and an animator are very much like, this is what we're going to talk about right now. Which,
Yeah.
again, that's great Star Trek. Let's talk about that a topic or something like that. And then how they execute it is not only bad, it makes it that our fool character, our goof, is the only one on the ship that deserves to be in Starfleet. Like that was my takeaway from the episode was he gets all of his work done. He's even looking for other things. He's got a phaser. So they get attacked by
That
people
was
with
funny,
spears,
though.
and he's just kind of like, shoots them like we have laser guns. They're still using spears with crystals attached to them. So let's just shoot him. And even when the captain gives everybody the right to do it, everybody just starts throwing shit at them. So it just becomes a comical National Lampoon fight rather than like, you guys are Starfleet. There's no security on here. Even the security officer, when people would bust in, he's going to punch them, and it's like, use a phaser, just phaser, like a stun. That would be enough to scare off this whole group.
And I think that's one of the things that, again, I said that I was worried about, where that feels universe breaking because they all have phasers on them, and that aspect made no sense. So this one, they sold out the idea for the joke, and it didn't work. It also doesn't work structurally, where it seems like the comment that they're making and the distinction that they're making is that if you are not a bridge officer or the doctor, you are lower decks. And I don't like that, because there are all these different areas that people have. So the fact that the entire crew besides the captain was overwhelmed because they no longer had this buffer time that they allowed themselves, it just felt silly and it just felt cheap. And I hope this isn't the direction it's going for. The thing I did like very much was the B plot on the planet, where they had to beat the giant creature, the giant individual, into submission so that he would let everyone go free. Because I felt like that was a good reversal of every time either Kirk or Riker was trapped on the planet and they had to do some feat of strength to prove that they could get out. He tries to do a speech first and says, first I'm going to give a speech and it's going to show them our ideals and then we're going to go. And then that didn't work. So then they had to fight. He does the two-handed Kirk punches on this guy so much. And I am a sucker for someone getting beat up so bad they start vomiting. So when the alien got hit in the gut and just vomited, I laughed so hard. There is a very weird part of my sense of humor where I like the idea of something so vulgar and so scary happening that someone throws up.
Yeah.
And it happened in a movie recently, and I almost cheered because something happens and then a character just spontaneously just like, bleh, and it was right up my alley.
Yeah.
There's two things I have, is that you get scared so bad you throw up, or that you bring a time traveler to the present from so far back that when they see an iPhone, they just freeze up and have a seizure because they cannot comprehend the technology.
Yeah.
That those two things that would always make me laugh. Someone just going completely catatonic because they cannot accept the reality of them, or someone throwing up because what they've just experienced is so traumatic.
Then let's talk about the main plot. I didn't like it either. I liked it better than the B plot, the plot on the ship, I'll say, where it was an away team goes down, and they are to give an artifact to this alien race that is all crystal based, which was some of the more interesting attempts at humor in the episode, where like everything had to be crystal. So everything had to be sort of crystal.
They were offended by wood.
Yep. So their nemesis uses wood. Having those two like in a cage, having to talk to each other, to work something out, is your opportunity to do some really great writing, to some really great character building. If you have two characters that hate each other, but they're well developed, and you put them alone in a room. I mean, it's Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Beyond works so
Yeah.
well because it's we break up into a bunch of two character plots, subplots, and those two characters are so well developed. I could have watched 2 hours of Spock and McCoy walking around. I could have watched 2 hours of um what is it, J-Law and Scotty. I could have watched
And
two.
Scotty.
Yeah, it's all of these little sub
I called
characters.
him. I was talking about this episode online recently, and I said, I wish there was more time dedicated to someone and James T. And I don't think anybody got that I was saying, like making that character joke.
Yeah.
And it was like, shit, nobody has watched this movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's sad how that movie is just non-existent to people.
Yeah.
The thing that I enjoyed, I liked the character development there, where they both had different ways of getting out of they both wanted to be the person to fight the monster to
Yep.
free the crew. And the important lesson given, where it was like, you're looking at it, the first officer tells Mariner, you're looking at it as, you're going to do this, you're going to save us, you're going to save, I forget how he put it, you're going to save the day, you're not going to save the team.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting thing. And the nice reversal of it is the aliens reacting to the selfish fight by the alien leader saying, you're fighting on who of you is going to be killed, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we know. And then at the last minute, the first officer stabs her in the foot with the spear so that she can't fight.
Yeah.
And goes and does save the day. And he does do that. But then the way that ends too felt like it didn't fit with what they were trying to do with the first two episodes. He apologizes and admits, the way you stood up to me and the way that you were handling this was cool and kind of a turn on. And I hope you don't report me for stabbing you in the foot. I could lose my job and be court-martialed for that. And she says, no, of course not. You did a good job. And I think it was pretty cool that you did that. And he goes, okay, and I'm sorry. You're going to the brig for arguing with me and disobeying a direct order. And then she starts disagreeing, and like they're dragging her to the brig, and she's throwing stuff at him. And the funny character moment where he's like, man, that's hot. Like, he's liking her bucking against the system, but why not? And I hate using this term because who am I to say smart writing? Why not have him say, you're going to the brig? And she's already established she likes going to the brig. Her being like, oh, thank you. Like, that means a lot that you're sending me to the brig.
They even had at the first part of the episode where they're testing out the shield blaster doors in the brig, in the cell. So we could have easily added in dialogue or had her in there like, hey, go ahead and shoot me or leave me in here. I don't care. I like it here. It's quiet. It's the only place I get any, this is bigger than my bunk. They're right there. Yeah. There's like 3 different lines you could use that would have set up like a nice button to connect it back to something in the episode. Now,
she even says too, when she's getting dragged away, she goes, the joke's on you. I love it in the brig.
Yeah.
If he had just been like, I know I'm doing this for you, like to change that dynamic instead of it just being like, haha, she's getting punished for no reason. And then I loved the very final joke of the episode. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I think that was very mean. So the very end of the episode, the captain says, we're naming break time the Boimler effect, because this guy told us that you have to be inefficient and you have to goof off sometimes in order to be a good officer. And here's a plaque that says that. And he's sad that his name is now associated with saying you have to be a slacker. And then it goes to this, it says the far future, and this teacher is teaching all of these alien kids about one of the best things in the world was the Boimler effect, where it taught people that they had to relax, and it was great. He wasn't the greatest Starfleet officer of all time. That person was Miles O'Brien, and I laughed so hard, and I thought that was sweet. But then,
I thought you were going to make fun of me, because that might be my favorite part of the episode, is having a Miles O'Brien joke. It's cheap.
Let me ruin it.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to ruin that for you. I love it. It's cheap and it's sentimental for people like us. This whole episode has established that Boimler is a piece of crap. Yeah. So they're saying that the far future society is so out of touch, they think Boimler is a great person. And then to further enforce how out of touch they are, they say the greatest person is Miles O'Brien.
Um,
When I want it to be that they are smart and saying that Boimler is effective, because I want Miles O'Brien to get the honor he deserves. And it made me feel like I think their joke is that this future civilization is so stupid they think O'Brien is the most important person, and that offends me.
well, you can take it that way, and it's definitely it is. I think it's right for you to think that. I would say that for me, it was kids that were being taught this, and when you're a kid, you're taught all these propaganda lies about your government, and then you get
Like what?
let's just go through it. It seems like every good guy won every war. Isn't that amazing that the right team won every war? So
Someone recently legitimately tried to tell me that Columbus did find America,
oh, thank God.
and I had to disengage and be
Yeah.
like, all right, fair
Yeah.
enough, you win this conversation.
Because my life's too short to have to
There's no
talk to
coming
you.
back on that.
But so it was a bunch of kids that were being taught this, and they're being taught that Boingler's theory is the protocol is what saved the world. And that's kind of like, okay, then they'll get to high school or college and they'll learn that Boingler was not into that at all. He was just on the world's shittiest ship with the world's shittiest crew, and he was the only one doing his job, so he's the only one that deserves to be remembered. But I like an O'Brien reference. I like an O'Brien reference. So
Yeah, I'm watching for fun. I'm rewatching Deep Space Nine, and it's hitting me a lot differently as an adult now than it was as like someone in my like early 20s when it was airing. It ended in 2000, and that in and of itself being like this show is 20 years old over, but it's hitting me in different ways in terms of like the guerrilla warfare and everything that happens in it. So I'm enjoying it more, and it goes back to what we've always said. I feel like this new era just isn't what I'm into,
yep.
and I'm glad that it exists, and I'm glad it's there for people, but it doesn't feel like it's for me. But so be it. Let people still have it and enjoy it.
I was like, this sucks and it's a piece of shit and people that like it are stupid. And you were like, maybe it's not written for us. And I was like that took me a second, like, oh shit, that's right. There are other humans on the planet. Having said that, there's still good writing and bad writing. And it's really,
Yeah.
if you're going to give me bad writing, you got to give me something else. It's if it's bad writing, make it funny.
This episode did not fit on a Starfleet ship. Last week, the thing that we liked so much is that the engineer character Rutherford was trying to decide, was basically to get a date, was deciding to change his career path on the ship, and everybody was supportive of him. The way that the crew acts in this episode, I don't believe that is the same crew from last week.
Yeah.
They did not have that same attitude, and it just felt really strange. And then to boil it back to why I'm so not offended, but just why I was so taken aback by this episode is because the teaser reminded me of something like like Community. I could see someone playing a violin on stage while a very important thing is happening in the next room, and then someone comes up and plays something loud, and then like that joke working. But it does not work in the framework of the 3 episodes or the 2 episodes that have already aired, and it felt strange. So I'm hoping that there's not this disconnect in every episode where what we've liked so far is just random luck and not a plan, which would be a real big bummer.
Yeah, so that was basically the rundown for me on the bad stuff, which was I thought the plot on the ship was it was denying everything that Star Trek, like they would have phasers, they would have rifles. I mean, that's always the judgment on Star Trek's the perfect liberal future. It's like, yeah, but they still go to planets
but everyone
with
has a gun.
guns like this, so it's like it's a mixture, at some point, this side went a little, this side went a little, and we became the human race we became. But uh, yeah, this one, no one had a phaser but our goof. No one could do their job, including the captain, but the goof. So the goof now is the only person on the entire ship that deserves to be in Starfleet. Like that's what. And then we have our two other characters that are down on the planet being held in a cage, and they either need to work together, or they're going to learn something from each other, or they're going to use something that is Star Trek, or something that might be a scientific argument to fix the situation.
And
And
that's what bothered me. They didn't. If she was sent to the brig as a form of thank you, that's Star Trek. That's a
yep.
very Star Trek thing.
Mhm.
And they didn't do that. And it was like, this was a lost opportunity because neither of them learned from each other.
Well, this episode could have been called, the title of this episode is Lost Opportunities. It's left and right. It was like something set up that could be really fun. And even like, it's a planet that is obsessed with crystals. It's a race that they don't have guns, because why would you have a gun when you can have a spear with a crystal? They've got spaceship technology, but it's all crystals. And so it was like, I don't think they went enough with it, which
And
sounds
there's
weird.
that throwaway line where the alien says, "Where are your crystals?" He says,
Yeah.
"We don't have any except for the dilithium, and you're not getting that." It's like, why bring it up then?
Yeah.
Like that was like something where it felt like we have to be beholden to Star Trek and mention that, but it didn't work. You didn't need that at that point.
Yeah. I don't know.
God, I feel so negative and dirty. Is this what it feels like to be you?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's it. I really, at the end of the episode, I got done and I was like, if we're watching how the villains become the villains, this is a good show. That's how I feel, because everybody on this ship is a selfish asshole. Everybody on the ship is incompetent to a point that you don't deserve any big missions. Like I said, it's oh man, they took away our big diplomacy thing, but we got to go deliver a gift, like a bunch of jokes. It's our job. We're gonna do it. We're Starfleet, and then you guys fucked up.
Why not be happy about that?
Yeah,
like if they were happy offhand, like they were about the career path change in the episode before,
yeah,
it would be a different show. It would not only work in the framework of the universe that they're doing, but imagine if some dumb asshole is watching this show and their attitude now, their paradigm going to work from now on is always think of the positive.
yeah.
How great that is.
So
Yeah.
now let's move on to the good stuff. Let's talk. We've both been very negative on this episode, and I imagine we're going to end negative. At least I am. Let's move on to some of the positive. What was some of the good stuff from this episode? I know we already mentioned a couple, but Mike,
Yeah, I
would you like
apologize
to
for
start?
breaking format on that. I just felt like I needed to.
Yeah, I
thought
know
that
it's so negative, so negative.
I thought that O'Brien joke was funny, and
Yeah.
I'm always going to be happy when O'Brien or Colin Meaney comes up into play.
Yeah.
I liked how it paid off in the slapstickiness. Everything that had happened before in the episode, where everyone is so overworked that they're dropping things, or they drop some acid and it opens up a hole in the deck, where later the aliens jump and they land in the hole.
Yeah.
And I like that they at least paid off that stuff. Like if this was what I never watched the Orville, that Seth MacFarlane Star Trek-ish show, but I wanted that to be a comedy, and when I heard it wasn't, I kind of didn't have any interest in watching it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if this didn't have Star Trek in its name, this would have been a fine show about a science fiction ship doing this crazy, wacky adventure. But it suffered this week for being a Star Trek show. The alien civilization getting more and more annoyed that they just were arguing with each other. So they're told, you're going to fight. Oh, that was the other joke I really liked. They're told, you have to fight our champion, and if you can defeat him, you get to go free. And then, like I said earlier, the guys argue over who's going to face the champion, and the alien king is like, you're fighting on who's going to die. I thought that was funny, his exasperation at that. And then right before he defeats the alien and kills him, the alien, who has only said his name this whole time, very much like the Matt Damon joke in Team America, says, "I yield," and he goes, "I thought you could only say your name." He's like, I thought it was very funny. He was like, "No, I just have like an image to uphold, and I need everybody to think I'm a brute, so that's why I say my name all the time."
Yeah.
I thought that was funny, but it's so few and far between with what they could have pulled off, I feel.
Yeah. I liked the fight with the big lug. I actually liked the alien race. Like Submariner's like, is that what you wanted out of your life, to guard a cell and keep people locked up? And he's like, yep. She's like, oh, all right. And like walks away. I was like, all right. Like, it's an alien race. Like, what their dreams and aspirations are is none of your fucking business, or you might not even be able to comprehend it. So,
And I think
like,
she compliments him too. She's like, "All right, good
yeah,
for
all
you."
right. No,
Like it was positive.
yeah, she asked him a straight question. She was being possessive and controlling with her questions, and he was fine with it. He did not give a shit. So, um, yeah, I like the crystal aliens. I like they're dropping a giant geo on people. I like that they got crystal swords, and like there's
I
even
felt like there was a sick bay joke, or there was a joke with the doctor that I can't remember that I found that I liked. But again, that just goes to show like how I feel like this was a weak episode, and I'm looking forward to subsequent episodes building on those first two and learning from this one.
yeah, and I like the end. Um, and yeah, I like Boimer getting everything done and then cleaning everything, and I like what, and I could be projecting, like them trying to do things in a certain amount of time could have nothing to do with like the Amazon um
Oh,
shipping
with the way you
workhouse.
described it, it has to be. So I'm
I
glad that it
think,
had that at least social commentary on it.
yeah, and so like I was like, oh, we're gonna talk about this. Let's talk about this, because like if we're going to, so much of the animation, and the creator of this show only has 2 writing credits, and both are with Justin Roiland, and he got his start on Rick and Morty. If we're going to go down the Rick and Morty path, they have episodes where they tackle really serious things and current serious things, how we view God, how we use technology, how we use or abuse each other. So I would hope that this, and Star Trek does that. Star Trek takes on these issues and talks about them, normally in a very more positive light. So I was hoping that we would see some of that from the show. So we started to see that, but then they just abandoned it to tell some jokes, and they weren't good enough jokes to tell. So
I
now
mean, I
we're
guess
just,
the moral is, let people do their own thing the way that they can do it, and don't time them like Amazon does. But
yeah,
it wasn't clear. That they didn't establish that that was what they were trying to impart, other
yeah.
than making a joke about it.
Did this remind you of any Star Trek Next Generation episodes?
Not specifically. It reminded me about an episode I want to talk to you about when we're done, because it's going to be an entirely different subject. But
Okay.
which one did it hit for you?
I started Chain of Command
Chain of Command. Oh shit! With
with
change everything up and wear the uniform
wear the
with Ronnie
uniform.
Cox.
If for those who don't know, Star Trek Next Generation has a 2-part episode. There are 4 lights, which may be a rating system for us one day, depending how much I love that idea. And I just force it on us
We
and
were
make
so
us.
ignorant.
Yeah, I know,
I
man. We
know.
did not plan. We don't. I'm so sorry, people. Chain of Command is a 2-part episode from Star Trek Next Generation where Captain Picard is removed or kidnapped or gone, and they put the bad guy from RoboCop in, and he's a dick. Like he is a, you're gonna get this done. You're gonna get this done now, and I don't care. And we see Geordi, we see everybody. Like is all of his.
His, if you don't mind me saying, his make it so is saying get it done.
Yeah,
And that's the perfect encapsulation of how he's different from Picard. So
yeah. And the episode almost is kind of like to teach us about like a good leader versus a bad leader. But in that episode, the bad leader succeeds in a couple
yeah.
major places. So that kind of like falls flat on that. Really, when you watch it now, and if you've ever been in charge of managing anything like you and I both have, you watch it now and you're like, Riker, get your shit together. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
your boss told you to do something. Quit being a bitch. Like, just
Did
do
I
it.
talk to you about this recently? I forget who it was, where it might have been you, where I said The Office rings so different for me now. now the Steve Carell office,
Yeah.
because there's some stuff that Michael does where it's like they're just giving him a hard time because of the way he's going about this, but he's a nice guy. And there's a moment where he's out of the office for some reason, and Jim decides to combine everybody's birthdays because Jim was in charge. And when Michael gets back, he's like, "Oh, you combine all the birthdays, huh?" And he's nice about it and imparts like a little bit of a lesson to him. And that right there is what I feel most managers that people hate are like. And now watching it, I hate Jim because I'm like,
Yeah.
if I had an employee like that, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And but I will say that the counter to that is having recently rewatched Chain of Command and then reading the behind the scenes stuff on there. They said that they made an effort to make Captain Jellicoe, Captain Picard's replacement. They made an effort to make him efficient and a good captain so that it wasn't just some asshole coming onto the ship.
Okay.
And I think they do it a little too well, like you said, because Riker is just this petulant dick who's like, I'm going to go hide in my quarters. And it's like, ooh, that's a little rough to watch now and also be a manager.
Yeah, like again, living through the Jim phases of your life and the Michael Scott phases of your life.
Yeah.
When I watched that episode as a kid, I was like, "Man, get that asshole out of here! RoboCop should come in and shoot that fucker." And then watching it as an adult, I was kind of like, "Riker, get off your ass and get stuff done." And there's even a scene where he like has to ask Riker to do his job, and it's
And
kind of
he like say please, and it's
yeah.
like,
Oh my
dude.
God. And it's not at the end what Riker did save Picard. At the end, what Jericho did helped save Picard. Him being a complete sort of dick and asshole. So this episode, when they started to lay down the law and they were going to change everything up and everybody's freaking out, I was like, oh, we're going to get a comedy version of Chain of Command. And I think that might have helped ruin, this episode was already ruined, but helped ruin it for me, where it was kind of like I started thinking of a very decently written, character driven piece of Star Trek. And instead we got, we got this episode.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm still going to be watching. We're still going to be doing this. I just hope that the next few episodes, what I want them to do is give a clear mission statement as to where the bridge crew is going and who they are as people. We know a little bit more about the motivation of the first officer. He is by the book and he wants to be the hero because he feels like he needs to live up to that. Let's do something with that now. Let's find out why the captain is so high strung, why her daughter gets away with all this crap on the ship. Does anyone else know it's her daughter? Because that could also lead into why people haven't complained about her. Because the whole thing is, the first episode establishes she wants a reason to get her off the ship. Any other person except Boimler could tell her, hey, she screwed this up and she'd be out of there, but it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know where that's going. So lots of stuff to look forward to, and hopefully they hit it. In terms of my rating for this episode, I would have to say that this garners a full-on 2 Darmoks out of 5 Jalads. And this episode is very much Picard and Beverly on the planet with the RoboCop, the flying RoboCop robots.
I'm gonna give it the back to the sad rating of 1 Darmok out of 5 Jalads, and I'm going to say it is Picard's outfit from Captain's Holiday. Where I understand what you're trying to do, but you did it in the least effective way possible. So that's what I'll say.
He looked, if you haven't watched Captain's Holiday or aren't familiar of it, I'll go nerd on this one. He looks like the samurai super friend, but it's all white instead of the colorful gi. It's like just this white, weird Picard thing.
Well, there was, I don't know if you remember, for a bit there, Patrick Stewart became kind of a sex symbol. And somebody was like, he's got that body. And he's one of those, well, let's put him in a skimpy little outfit. and just have him lounging on a beach chair, just have him
Reading a
soak,
book.
reading a book, soaking up the sun in that little outfit. It's like, I get the idea is there. Your execution is, I'm being nice and saying comically bad,
So you're rating him. You're rating this episode as the outfit that
the
he wore.
outfit. Like,
All
if I
right.
was in the room and the costumer was like, "Hey, that Captain's Holiday episode, I've got the perfect outfit to put him in," and they showed it to me, I'd be like, "Oh no, this is really great. Could you go back to the costume department? Because I want to fire you when you're not in the room. Like, I need you to go back to your office because this is just it's such a bad decision." Yeah.
We have to have a specialized category if we ever actually index this on iTunes, so that we're the metaphorical review show of Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Or Star Trek in the 21st century, as we've put it, because we're going to be carrying through with Discovery Season 3 that airs right on the tails of Lower Deck. So hopefully that's better.
Alex Marino on Facebook says, Donald Trump, Ferengi, Romulan, or Parlet.
Donald Trump is definitely a half Pakled, half Ferengi.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm glad that you said that, Alex, because that's what I wanted to bring up. We talked about episodes of Star Trek and things that they've covered before. That episode where it's already borderline offensive, where it's these aliens that are not smart and their culture is defined by them not being smart, kidnapping Geordi to make their ship that they've stolen from another civilization more efficient, is a bummer. I always quote it with good friends when we realize we've done something stupid, where we'll be like, "Oh, Michael is not smart." But what hit me recently was, how mean do you think they are to their civilization's women? If they are like that to themselves and their men, how horrible are they to the women Pakleds?
Evil slime that killed Tasha Yar on Skin of Evil, where it's like, hey, there's this horrible thing down here. No one get near it. Just everybody stay away from it. It's whining and bitching and moaning and demanding things, and just maybe we should all avoid it. It kind of reminds me of that.
I'm trying to think. No, you know who he is? We talked about him yesterday. He's Fat Joe. He's the guy that kidnapped Data and just wants to have things.
Yeah. So
that fucking asshole. You know what? You would appreciate this. Oh, go ahead.
They replaced him. It was originally the actor playing him was the lead from Time Bandits.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I've seen clips, but for whatever reason, they were like, this doesn't work at all. And they recast him and shoehorned it into the episode.
And he shortly thereafter killed himself. Sorry to bring it down.
Damage Reports, episode 3. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. We'll tell you about the Star Trek cast members who have committed suicide.